JONAH HEX. Hello, I am Superman. That's my name. Don't wear it out.
JONAH HEX. Are you a gambling man, perchance?
I know my damn name. Oh yes, JONAH HEX. What an unexpected surprise. I swear to God, varmint, if I gotta hear my name one more goddamn time, what do you think you're going to do about it? I'm gonna do exactly what the greatest cowboy of all time has done. Descend to the sunrise and hollow my lungs out.
Hello my friends, welcome back to Player Display. So here we have a really awesome figure, which has been out for a little while now, but I really wanted to get him. I mean, when he was first revealed, I was kind of like, oh, he's kind of interesting. It's a cowboy with a horse. I thought about it for a few weeks, and I was like, you know what? It's a cowboy with a horse. And then I watched a movie related to this character, and I'm like, oh my god. It's a cowboy with a motherfucking horse! So I had to cave, and I got him. This is the McFarlane Toy Store exclusive DC Multiverse Gold Label Collection McFarlane Collector Edition JONAH HEX with the General being his horse. Now, JONAH HEX is a somewhat obscure character, although a very cool one, who I honestly didn't even know about until this figure was released, so this is one of those infamous impulse buys, if you will. It's kind of cool that we're getting these offshoot characters, standalones, in the collector edition line. But this guy is super duper exclusive because, again, he's a gold label, he's a collector edition, he's an in-store exclusive, and it comes with a megafig. I guess you could qualify the horse here as a megafig. So, all that being said, I have seen a few reviews on him, so you kind of already know what to expect. So, I'm going to get through this a little bit quickly, but to start us off, let's look at the packaging. We've already had a look at JONAH HEX and his horse, the General, with a whole bunch of accessories, including firearms. And I would be beating a dead horse saying this, because I already know everybody knows this, but the reason why there's firearms is because they have upticked the age limit. It is 18 plus, and it's sold as an online exclusive. So kids aren't going to get their hands on this. That means Warner Brothers can rest their heads easy, knowing that there won't be a kid with a 1-inch long revolver or something. Like, that's going to change anyone's lives radically. But anyhow, we're not here to talk politics. Neither is JONAH HEX. Off to the side, you can see we have these platinum furnishings here to reflect, quite literally, that this is a collector's edition figure. On the back, some really, really badass artwork, digging this a lot. Now, this is more specifically JONAH HEX from the All-Star and Western comic run, so this is meant to embody a very specific, modern depiction of this character, as opposed to as he looked in the 70s, I believe. So, that being said, very awesome looking packaging, and the figures don't look like any slouch either. So, that being said, let's take them out. One thing that I did want to mention before we go any further is, with the help of Betsy over here, I have been in the works opening the box, and something I didn't mention in previous reviews, which I would like to mention now, is they are actually doing the backdrop a little bit differently. We have the card and the figure stand contained within plastic bubbles, glued, adhered to this really beautiful backdrop, but that is fortunately no longer the case, at least for the time being, at least for JONAH HEX over here. And this also can be said with the 2-pack that we had with Doomsday and Superman from BVS. The card and the stand are now packed up in plastic and taped to the backdrop. So if you're careful and gentle enough, you can very gingerly peel these away, and you can have a nice backdrop. So finally, I've got the blue comic paneling that I can use for the thumbnails of these videos. So I'm really happy about that. Also very good for photo photography and stuff like that. So if you have been dying to get a clean version of this blue panel motif, then you got it. It looks amazing. Love Superman right there too. So here's the box's contents all taken out, and you know what? I dig it, guys. This is really cool. I love it a lot. So I have already seen a few reviews on this 2-pack, if you want to call it that. I mean, it's more than a 2-pack in my opinion, but I think everything here is new, except for the General, the horse itself. Accessories aside, we have seen this horse molded before with a Witcher figure, and also with the Gunslinger Spawn, and in both instances he had different saddle rigs and different color palettes. Like, he was also done in white, and I think done in black as well. So now we're getting a brown variant of the same horse, but most horses typically look alike anyways.
We don't all look alike!
But that being said, here we are with JONAH HEX and everything that he comes with. I'm going to pan down a little bit here. We have, of course, the trading card, and, you know what, we'll just go through everything right here. So, got the trading card with the same beautiful artwork as we saw on the back of the box, looking absolutely outstanding. Although you'll note right here is we actually have a lasso, the one traditional cowboy essential that he does not have, but I guess you could custom make one if you really wanted one. And on the back you get a bio, and this is the most modern, up-to-date bio that he has. Again, his story's been retold, I think on 2 or 3 occasions, especially if you watch the movie where it's totally different. And in this case, they try ham-fisting him into the Batman lore, which feels a little awkward to me. But then again, he did confront Batman in one of the animated shows, I think because Ra's al Ghul was doing his Ra's al Ghul thing, so somehow their timelines met up. I'm not totally familiar. Those cartoons were before my time, so I couldn't really speak to it, but honestly, I don't know a whole ton about this character, and I don't care. I don't know a whole ton about it. It's a badass-looking cowboy, and that's enough for me, so that's fine. And you also got your DC figure stand over here with a little silver logo down here, but aside from that, nothing else makes it very special. But then down here, you got a whole ton of weapons. We'll look at them individually later on. But we have an alternate holster set that we can sling around his waist. You got a knife, a cavalry dagger, or sword, or whatever you want to call it, a rifle, 2 revolvers, and a hatchet. So this looks like a great set. And where do we begin? I guess we'll start with the man himself. Here is Jonah Hex. I believe everything here is new. There is no reuse or anything. And as far as I can tell from the reviews and stuff, it's a borderline perfect figure, except for one thing. We'll get there when we get there, but as we always do, we must start with the head sculpt, which is perhaps the most fascinating thing about this character design. It's not just a cowboy. It is a cowboy with a half-scarred face. So we'll start over here at the ugly side of this bounty hunter. And the origin of how his face became this way varies depending on what source you're looking at. Of course, you had the movie, and I know the movie's kind of illegitimate. A lot of people hate it. I loved it. It was a whole lot of stupid fun. I encourage you to watch it. It's a short one. But in there, he was branded by a rival cowboy that he previously did heists with, who also murdered his family. Then he got revenge on him. Typical schlocky Western-style fun if you've never seen the film yourself. But I think in the comics, he was branded by his father or something. I don't totally remember. I'm not a Jonah Hex expert yet, though I intend to be. But this is an excellent sculpt. On the ugly side, very Two-Face looking. You got a lot of melted up flesh. I love how you have the exposed teeth over here, and then you also have some red irritation around the eye, and the eye is very much more exposed than his good side over here. I really love how, quite literally, the flip of a coin, again, more Two-Face vibes. If you go on this side, you get his ugly. On this side, you have the man that he once was. From this side, he's not nearly as interesting, so I really love the contrast that we have between the two sides of his face. I also really like how naturally the hat that he has, which is not removable as far as I can tell, although with hot water I'm sure you could do it, it casts a very nice natural shadow over the face. Makes him feel a little more ominous. Like when you turn him up to the light, then you can see, yeah, he's all scarred up. But from a distance, and then the shadow, it's kind of a little ominous. You're not totally sure what's going on with him until you get up close. So I like that contrast quite a bit. So it's just gives you a lot more posing options just from the natural shading from the hat. As for the hat, it's not just a molded piece. You notice it does have a little bit of dry brushing to bring out some of this little texture work. There's not even texture in the sculpt, but the paint makes you believe that. You know, this little loop around here, around the brim, and it's just nice. Great head sculpt. Probably the best part of this whole figure. As for the rest of it, let's move on to that. Down to the torso, he's got very basic clothing. He's not armored. He's not wearing spandex. He's not really even a superhero. Barely even an anti-hero. He's just a bounty hunter. And I like how simple that is. He existed in a time before superheroes finally landed on Earth or crawled out of bat caves. Know what I mean? So this guy's just really interesting to me. But that being said, going back to his attire, very basic buttoned up shirt. Then he got this, in my opinion, a very nice coat. Now, this is a thing that a lot of people have issues with for a few reasons. Firstly, it's very limp. Not wired or anything, very thin. Personally, I actually really like that. It makes him feel more disheveled and dirty and worn out. It just adds to that I don't give a crap aesthetic that this character gives off. And I really like that. It makes him seem a little bit more slummy. I don't know what word I'm going with here, but you get what I mean. It just gives him a little bit more of this disheveled aura, which I really like. Now, the other thing that people do complain about, which I do think is fair, is it's meant to be a trench coat of sorts, and the way it's supposed to look is you have this little fold, I don't know what the technical term for it is, that goes over the rest of the coat, but because of the way it's stitched, it's a little awkward because you have this excess cloth on the inside of the seams, so you gotta kind of fold that corner over it so it looks aesthetically pleasing. So it should look like this, more or less. It's a little more trickier on this side. I'll have to finagle with that a bit. So you get the idea. So it should have those corners coming out like that, and that looks a little cleaner. As for me, I'm a customizer. I don't mind that at all because I know exactly how to fix it, and here's how. What you want to do is cut away the excess cloth as much as you can without cutting the actual seams. Just go around the neck and then down back to here, around the ab portion, I suppose. Cut out that excess cloth. Then what you can do is get just a little bit of double-sided tape, plant it inside the corner, fold it over, and tack it down to the rest of the outfit. So if you're a modder like me and you don't mind toying around with your figure, which you should be doing, you should be enjoying your figures, right? Then that's an easy fix. So I have no issue with that. And I guess if I were to really nitpick, this has no pockets or buttons to speak of. I really don't care. It's just a nice, basic, flimsy and limp-looking jacket that he could have stolen off a dead man, which I really like. So I'm good. I think it really adds to the aesthetic of this figure. And also, of course, since this is soft goods, which I will always prefer off of solid plastic, you can remove it, so we will do that as well. Watch the fingers, though. It does get a little bit snagged. And we can see the rest of the undershirt. Was really wanting to hold on to his jacket there, but there we go. I'll keep that off until we get to articulation, but it's really nice base body as well. You see that we have some very big, good butterfly joints in there, so I imagine he'll have quite a bit of movement. He definitely does, and he can go in for some good gunslinging poses, so we'll look at that again later on in the articulation segment. But then again, you get a continuation of that undershirt, some long sleeves, got some bare hands. I would have appreciated if they made the ball joints and the wrists a flesh tone to match with the hand, but not a big deal. And also when you have the coat on there, it's kind of hidden anyway, so no skin off my teeth, my nose. I know I said both in the past, but whatever way. It's got this alternate holster here, or rather this is his default one, and it's got a whole bunch of straps and belts and clips. It just looks really great. Got some nice texturing to it. Maybe a little bit of a light dry brush would really bring this figure together, at least here on the belts. But you do see it very faintly here on the undershirt, and you also get it down here on the pants. This is something that a lot of people have skimmed over when reviewing this figure, I've noticed, is what they did with the pants here. Well, it's a pair of jeans, which looks great, and you also have thigh cuts, that way you can actually mount general, as we will look at later. But they did a little bit of this sandy dry brushing down here on the pants and on the cowboy boots, which looks great. I really love that detail. Just a few extra seconds of paint can make a figure look so much better. And this dude is fantastic. Absolutely remarkable. I dig this figure. I know that people have complaints about the jacket. Again, I'm a modder. I really don't care. So with that aside, in my eyes, this guy is perfect. I love him a lot, especially having him in hand. He's fantastic. Very good. Now, I know he's got a ton of accessories, so we're not going to screw around with all of them, but we can at least do a few tests. So the first holster rig that he has here, it's got two loops off to the side where I suspect you can store his two revolvers, as any cowboy should have. But he also has an extra piece over here, which I expect would be for the knife. Although you could get a little creative. Like, I've even seen people put in his whole rifle there, which I suspect would be a little uncomfortable. I guess if you wanted to, you could custom make an extra sash going around his back. Then again, it would kind of clash with the coat, but there's options here. So yeah, really cool that you can do that. And you can also, I believe, unpeg it. Yes, you can, from behind the loop on the back. You pop that off. Oh, this belt is part of the default figure, so that is not removable. That's fine. And then we can bring in the alternate one. And it's cool that we got two, because now you can use it on other figures if you want, like the Gunslinger Spawn or whoever would have his same waist circumference, I guess. But yeah, you should be able to pop that on. And it clicks in really nicely. It doesn't feel cheap. It clicks in. It doesn't feel like it's trying to pop out or anything. It's not resisting at all. Looks good. Oh, and pop that a little down all the way down the belt. And it fits in very good. And once again, you got two holsters here. to slot in your revolvers very easily. I love the fact that we're getting a McFarlane figure with firearms. It happens every blue moon, but it's still nice when we do get it. It makes it all the more special. As for his hands here, he has no alternate hands, but that's fine. I mean, he's probably going to be wielding something no matter how you're posing him anyways. So as for these hands, they are both trigger hands. So let's start off with, we got the sword over here. Ooh, the hands are stiff. I don't love super stiff hands, but you can kind of squeeze it in there, and that's nice. You can kind of bend the sword around in the hand without articulating the wrist at all, so it kind of just naturally angles outward, and you can kind of be doing Darth Revan like that, so that's pretty cool. Then you also have his knife. You could slide that in there, probably just from the top, like so. Not bad. Very good. I also like how you have almost this ivory grip in there. It's a nice little variation. And lastly, not lastly, we have another whole other weapon to go, but one of my favorite things I want to test out is the rifle here. Is this a Winchester? I'm not totally sure. Or is that just a brand thing that you can't incorporate in comics? But whatever. It's a good looking rifle. Let's bend out the hand. Hurts a little, but that's okay. I'll find a way to carry on. And yeah, you can get that into his hand, no problem. Can you do in both hands? I'm sure you can. Squeeze that into his lefty while staying on camera, and bends a little bit, but yeah, do enough articulation with the arms, and I'm sure you could get him with it down his sights if you wanted to, and looking really awesome. But we're not going to do every single posing option with this figure today. Last thing he has is the hatchet. And come on, it's going to be easy. You just slide right in. And, well, we did just have the rifle in there, so now it's a little bit of loose grip. But, yeah, it's still a nice accessory. And I believe you could stow some of these props on his horse as well. See, a little stiffer in that hand, so that's nice. But yeah, really great figure. Whole arsenal of weapons for you to work with. This guy is exciting. I can't wait to play with him around with him even more. So, all that being said, before you get into the general, let's start off with articulation for JONAH HEX. So, I guess we can keep the guns in the holster there, so that's fine. We got very, very good head tilt. Got really good down. Good amount back, too. So, head all around is pretty solid. You also got those butterfly joints, as I talked about before. They can crunch all the way in for gunslinging pose. We'll do a little bit of that later on, perhaps, maybe. Swivel all the way around. Also got that much out to a 90. You got bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, which are a little tricky when you have the coat on, but I suspect when you loosen them up, warm them up, they won't be too difficult to work with. Typical McFarlane style wrists, you know the deal there. I suspect this is a dumbbell in the torso here, so a little bit forward. Well, combined with the waist, got a good amount forward, actually. Good amount back. Can tilt side to side pretty good. As for the legs, not a whole ton forward, and about the same amount back. Again, you got thigh swivel, although it is ratcheted, so be a little wary of that. And it's kind of stiff, so it's a little dicey when you're getting it onto the horse. I haven't tried that yet, but we will later. Also got double jointed knees. I'm flexing these out for the first time. That's why they're a little bit on the loud side. And then we have, of course, back in the ankle. Not as much because the boot kind of stops it, but that's all right. Not as much forward either, though you do get toe articulation, and you should be able... there we are. We got some rocker. So, yeah, it's all there. This is a great figure, and again, another contender for one of my favorite top 10 figures of the year. I dig him a lot. What do you think? Now here we are with the General, who we will spend a little bit less time on, just because this guy has been released before, and it's kind of just a horse. There's not a whole ton to talk about here. A horse is a horse. But that being said, it's a very well done horse. So let's talk about it. I actually haven't articulated him or anything yet at all, so I will be going in dry here. But yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, it looks like an equestrian. It's got the head, it's got the mane, it's got a very nice rig here for the muzzle that goes over here to the saddle. We have reviewed two horses before, if you remember when I reviewed the NECA Planet of the Apes figures, and I got some third-party horses just off of Amazon, dirt cheap, and the difference there is they had, like, no articulation at all, but they were serviceable enough. But here we have a fully articulated horse, which is pretty cool. I don't think I need all the articulation personally, but it's so nice to have all the joints in there, finally, in a animal figure like this. But yeah, it's got a nice little canteen. It's got a little pouch up there. Admittedly, you could use some paint work. Maybe that's something I do. Maybe not. I mean, no, it's all brown. It kind of just blends in anyways. Got what is probably a little bit of a sleeping bag over there when Jonah Hex is off on his big missions. Got his little, what are these called? Little footrests. I don't know. I wasn't alive during the 1880s, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. It's got the tail back here. Got a pretty obvious ball joint back here, but not the worst thing. I mean, if you articulate it a bit, you could... No, that just makes it worse, but I really don't mind. Those kind of... The tail's kind of rubbery. It almost feels like you could pop it off with enough effort, but I won't be doing that, but interesting. And down here, you got some feet, and I was curious if he has horseshoes. He does not. All right, so no shoes for this dude. That's unfortunate, but yeah. And you got a little handle up here. Again, I don't know my horse terminology or anything, but the cool thing about this saddle that I noticed is he does actually have an area where you could store the rifle. So if you want, you can get the rifle and slot it right into there. And yeah, it looks good. Pretty seamless. Feels like it belongs. Nowhere else that we could store weapons on here, which is okay. But we got that, so it's a very nice little bonus. So now, that's literally all I have to say about the general, or horse, as he is called in the movie. Again, that's probably not comic accurate at all. But anyways, let's move on to articulation. In the head... What is going on in the head? There's a separation here. Oh, you got a tad down, not a lot up. Oh, I think it's a ball joint. Yeah, so you can get some tilt in there, which is kind of nice. You can't go as much this way because he's got the mane in the way, so be wary of that. So because of that, we're actually going to look at articulation from this side. And then, not really any up. The neck, I think, ooh, there's a good ratchet down, so you could be drinking some water or whatever. Or giving Hex some room to shoot forward, or whatever it is you want. As for the legs, they are different from front to back, but you do have, are probably very stiff joints. Yeah, they're like very, very heavily ratcheted, which is interesting. You got a single joint in the knee, which is cool. Also, got a joint down here at the ankle. You can go back, and I think there's some rocker in there. Right there, yeah. I don't know why you need that, but it exists. And then again, on the back legs, it's a little bit different. So you got forward, well, this is forward, and you got your back. Got, again, not quite 90 here, and I guess that's a knee as well. I don't know what you'd call that. And then exact same feet down here. And then you also got a singular ball joint here, and the tail, which can go in any which way that you want. Look, he's happy. So, yeah, good looking horse. I dig him. Oh, for the moment of truth, I'm not totally sure how we're going to do this, but I've kind of got Hex pre-posed to sit on the horse, so you got to definitely work with those thigh cuts, which are very rare in McFarlane, but usually done to compensate a horse, so I suspect Gunslinger Spawn has it. I know that the Dark Knight Returns also has a thigh cut as well, so they're rare, but they exist. But yeah, and then you can sling the feet into those little rings. You can't really see what's going on the other side here. It's a little tricky because you got to rotate. You don't have a rotation in above the boot, which I think would have been perfect, but I guess we can twist this in a little more. That's a little tricky. You know what? That's okay. So I can at least get one side looking good. I'm going to play around with it later, but I have seen people do both feet. But that being said, get Jonah Hex up there. Oh, we're way up there now. And you can get this little string from the muzzle rig over here in his hand. There we go. Then we can get the hand in there. We got a classic looking cowboy with a little bit of substance due to his face. So I like that a lot. Although one thing I am noticing, if we pan down here, it seems like the general's front legs are a tad warped. You can see they're bending in a little bit. Sorry about the camera. So then again, it might be articulation. No, I do think this foot is curving in a little bit. So I'm going to need to give this guy some hot water. But that being said, as a pair, they look fantastic. Definitely a showstopper on any shelf. So now let's do some size comparisons, and since Jonah Hex is a standalone character, I don't really know who to compare him with. Over here we got the Dark Knight Rises Bane with a custom soft goods trench coat. Then over here we have our DC Rebirth Joker with a NECA Toony head. So that was an interesting little mod. Not my mod, that was actually done by Toy Gain, so I wanted to mention that. And then over here with the soft goods cape, we have the Action Comics 1 Superman. From there, I guess we could do a Megafig comparison. So we got Jonah Hex next to the General, next to Bane from the Nightfall 2-pack with Batman. And I guess the General is longer than he is taller, so he's going to be shorter than the standard Megafig. Then again, the head is kind of close to Bane over here. So that being said, he is Megafig scale. He just happens to be a horse rather than an oversized human. So pretty interesting choice for a Megafig, but I mean, it's a cowboy with a horse. Where else do you want to go with them? And lastly, of course, we got the Star Wars The Black Series, Mechamuck.
Now that I've dealt with the caped boy, the clown, and the gas mask man, it's time for me to head on to the sunset. Where the hell is the General? General! General! Where is that goddamn horse at?
Oh, your horse is literally going way too fast! Hold on! Easily, this is my favorite 2-pack that McFarlane has ever done, that at least I've ever handled. I have very few complaints about it. Really, the only things are the weird folding over nature of the trench coat, but again, I know how to fix that, so that's not a huge deal. And also, I wish there was a cut in the boot, so that way you'd be able to plant his feet a little bit easier into the little slings on the saddle of General over here, so that would have been nice. But that being said, I love the accessories. Jonah Hex is a badass. The horse is no slouch either. It's just a really great 2-pack. Then you got a whole ton of guns to boot, which is, again, very rare for McFarlane. So just a whole lot of great surprises with this figure. All that being said, before we end, there's one more thing I wanted to talk about that we don't often talk about with figures on this channel, and that is the price. This figure, he's kind of obscure. Again, he's an in-store exclusive. On top of that, he's a gold label. He's a collector's edition. So there's a lot of exclusivity for this figure. That being said, he is being sold on McFarlane for $70. I am saying he as if it's one figure. The two of these guys together are $70, which is a lot. On top of that, when you consider shipping and taxes, this could be a $90 pack. Fortunately for me, the only reason why I got him at all is because I realized I was accruing McFarlane credit, which I didn't even know existed, so that made things like $20 less. So I managed to get him at about $70 anyways. All that being said, though, is he worth the standard $90 that you'd be paying? No, I think that's way too much. I mean, let's look at what we got here. So we got a figure here, which I guess you could call a collector's edition figure. So we'll call it $25, right? So you got the figure, you got the accessories. He comes with guns, but that doesn't really count as a price uptick in my opinion. He just happens to have stuff. He's a fully decked out and worthy collector's edition figure. So you know what? That being said, let's just say that this guy's 30. Then we got a Megafig over here, being the horse, and Megafigs typically go for about 40 to $45. So put these guys together, so you got a 40, got a 30, then, yeah, that's 70 right there. But on top of that, you got the shipping and taxes. Once more, this is an in-store exclusive. The only way to get it without paying scalper, which is stupid, don't do that, what's wrong with you, is to go to the store and have it shipped to you. So you're paying $90 no matter what, unless you got like a subscription or credit like I did. So I think this pack is way too much, way too expensive, unless you got a coupon code or something like that. So that's a little bit of a bother. But that being said, again, I've gone on a rant on why I hate exclusivity and why I think that's the bane, no pun intended, of action figure collectors' existences. But I think this is a good choice for an exclusive. It's a character that not everyone wants. I didn't even know that I would want him for the longest time. I really had to think about it. He's not mainstream. He's not a character who you'd mention in a superhero circle, or a comic circle rather, because he's not really a superhero. And then you'd say, Jonah Hex! And then people would be like, wait, what? Who are you talking about? If you say Batman, or Superman, or Wonder Woman, yeah, they'll know straight away. But this guy, he's a little bit more obscure, like Sergeant Rock, who we've also seen in the Collector's series, as I mentioned. So it's still nice that we're getting a chance to have this type of character, and his horse, mind you, in an exclusive circumstance. So it makes more sense. There's less quantities of him, and he's a little more exclusive. That I could tolerate. Even then, though, the price is too much. I think he's far too expensive. I only got him because cowboys are freaking cool, and they've also been on a little bit of an RDR2 streak, and I had a little bit of credit on me to work with, so I was able to get this figure comfortably. Would I just buy him straight out of pocket without that, though? Certainly not. I think $90 is ridiculous for this 2-pack. But if you can notch it down to 70 or even less, which I'm sure many others have, then I think you'll have a really great time. That being said, objectively, this is an awesome figure. Love the weapons, as I mentioned before. The base figure is fantastic. You got a horse. It's a great set. Then I guess the last thing is a matter of where would you put him in your McFarlane collection? For me, I'm not too picky. I'll put him next to Batman. I'll put him next to Supes. I really don't care. He's just another cool DC character. That's enough for me. Like, same would go for Sergeant Rock. I don't have any plans on getting him, but if I did have him in hand, I'd drop him with my McFarlane Weapons Accessories pack or whatever, and then I'd slot him in wherever the hell I wanted. This also gives me hope that we'll get other fringe characters. Like, I think the most iconic standalone DC character is V from V for Vendetta. If McFarlane ever did him, I would swoop him up straight away, first of all. And second, I could put him in kind of a collection of standalone DC characters who aren't doing all the multiverse team-up sort of stuff that you see the mainstream characters doing. So, yeah, this is a really interesting addition to the McFarlane catalog. I am, at the end of the day, very happy to have him and his horse. I keep neglecting to mention the horse. The horse is also very cool. But yeah, awesome all around. And you get guns. Did I mention you get guns? So very cool. That being said, that is going to be an end for this review. If you enjoyed, then please, as per usual, be sure to
Like, comment,
ring the bell to be notified of our latest arrivals. And subscribe.
Yeah, hi, Mechabug here. If you want to see more from Pod Guy, then please be sure to check out the Pod Plays channel down in the description for some Let's Plays. And if you want to support the channel a bit too, you also got the Pod Patreon, which is down in the description as well. See you around, folks!
Thank you guys very much for watching. Rock on, and I will see you all later.